welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh, out of Tin Mirror Studios on a special Saturday edition. And at the couch, Janai Kai. How are you?
I'm doing well. It's Janai Kai.
Janai Kai.
Janai Kai.
Janai Kai.
Yes.
Beautiful. Listen, I'm known for mispronouncing names because but I guess I'm just that stupid all the time.
No, you're fine.
So,
I get worse, honestly.
Well, give me what's worse. Make me feel better. What's worse?
There's been Janai, and
Janai.
I don't get that one really. I don't get why people say it that way. I get Janaya because some people mix up the I and the A.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
But it's whatever to me. But Janai, I don't know. I feel like I feel like they think there's a Y at the end, but they see the spelling, so I don't know what it is.
Well, tell what is the origins of your name? I mean, it's pretty different, and it's cool, by the way.
Yes, it's very unique. And my mom, I've asked her, and she said that she got it from the Bible. And so it's actually Hebrew. She got it from the Bible, and it means "May the Lord answer." So my mom, she's actually a pastor.
Okay.
And she was a pastor's daughter as well. So, I grew up in the church and everything, and that's how she got the name. Yeah.
Well, tell me about your life growing up. Where did you grow up? Tell me about your parents a little bit.
Yeah. So my parents, my dad was in the military, and so I moved around a lot when I was little. And then we just stayed in the DC area. And then my mom was working a lot as well. Later down the line, they divorced and everything was fine, but I lived more with my mom growing up. But they were always great to me. I would say I had a really great childhood. I cannot even complain at all. And my dad is actually the one that introduced me to wrestling too. And they always put me first when it came to how comfortable I was with anything, what I want to do when I grow up. They really focused on that when I was growing up. They really wanted to make sure that I was aligned to what I want to do.
So MMA, right? Let's start there. How does a young woman decide that that's what they want to do? Can you walk me through that?
Yeah. So I started with Taekwondo. That was my first discipline that I started with, and that just came about randomly. My mom asked me, "What do you want to do?" She pulled out a phone book and everything for me, and she was there was the ads,
right,
the businesses that are around, and there was a Taekwondo school, and there was a photo of this guy kicking in the air. I thought it was so cool, and I told her I want to do that, and it was Taekwondo, and so that's what I started with. And I'm very much about being independent and being my own competition. So I always want to be better than I was yesterday. And when I did Taekwondo, it was very much that. It's all about discipline, always about doing better and better for yourself. You're not in a team. It's only you out there. You're out there fighting by yourself, you and your opponent. And so I always loved that. I was always gravitated to something like that, so it just stuck with me. And so I started with Taekwondo, and then later down the line when I got older, I went into kickboxing and Muay Thai. So it was mainly all stand-up, not so much of ground game like jiu-jitsu or anything like that.
Why do you think you chose individual sport over team sport? I mean, being your father was in the military, right? And
yeah.
Thank you for his service, by the way. The military is a team sport, right? So I would have thought that maybe that would have transitioned over to you.
No, I think what I got from my dad was his art side. He's an artist as well. So that's what I kind of grabbed from him. When it came to just being independent, I don't really know where it really came from. I did try softball. I was on a softball team when I was younger as well. And I only did one season. I was like, okay, I'm good, I'm done. And that was my sister's thing. She was in softball. She loves group team stuff, but she's very much a leader. And I also like to be a leader, but also just independent. If I worked in a group, if I was in school and I worked in a group setting, I wouldn't like other people's ideas really sometimes. And I'm just ugh.
So you don't play well in a sandbox.
Yeah, I would say that. And I know sometimes I would end up having to be the one to be the leader. Some people just were there in the group, and it's kind of all right, I have to step in, I feel like. So yeah, I think, and I have no problem doing that. It's just but it's why even be in a group anyway? So that's why I just like being independent.
Right. So you're in school. Again, I want to understand how someone goes into this. Do you also have problems like taking direction from like teachers and things like that, but being an individual?
No, I was just very quiet. I
Gotcha.
never had issues like taking direction or anything like that. Very quiet. I only had like a couple issues like learning wise. Like I wasn't very good at reading comprehension and
Well, just
math.
like
So
it.
like little
I
things
got you.
like
I
that.
got you. Right.
But I was never like flustered. But like I always paid attention. I always tried to at least do good. And I never was a bad student. I was just an average student, so I would get a lot of C's maybe on my report card. I was never a straight A student, none of that. But I was always a very creative person, and that's where like the art side came from my dad, going back to that. So art class was my class. That and then history was also my class as well, but I always look forward to art class.
No, I get it. So now you're training in Taekwondo.
Yeah.
Right? When do you realize that you've got a gift in this? Does your teacher teach you like that? How does that happen?
I think for me it happened when my one of the instructors, he grabbed me aside and asked if I wanted to start doing competitions because he saw that I had something in me. I also like won, like we have like banquets in Taekwondo, and I won Indomitable Spirit, which is like I never gave up. I always kept going, always try to do better, and my instructor saw that. And so he pulled me aside. He said, "Do you want to start doing competitions, like solo competitions? You can, with the competitions, like Taekwondo tournaments." I was the only one representing my school. The other students, they were not necessarily ready. And for how young I was as well, I started Taekwondo when I was 6. So he grabbed me aside when I was probably like 7 or 8. Like I was a couple belts in. And I was like, yeah, I would definitely like to try it. And that's when I noticed that I actually have something, because when I went to these tournaments, I was getting at least first or second place against my opponents.
Again, and forgive me, right? So I don't know much about Taekwondo,
Yeah.
but obviously I know like the competition. Do they have like men against women type of? Or is it always women against women?
It's always women against women, and then it was like the age group and the belt system.
So being a woman at your level,
Yeah.
was it hard finding competition? I mean, you know what I mean? Because I would think there would be less women in this than there would be men. Was that difficult?
So from what I remember, sometimes it was difficult, but it was only if like my opponent was bigger than me. You know, of course I was still younger, I was still smaller, and there were some
Right.
women who were like taller for their age. And so that's the only time where I found it difficult.
Can you elaborate a little more though? Like just because of the size, or
Yeah. Yeah, it was definitely because of the size. I think what it was too was sparring. Because when it comes to tournaments, it's based on the forms, sometimes board breaking, and sparring. Sparring was like the biggest thing. So it's kind of like, I don't know if you've seen like Karate Kid or anything like that. It's like a tournament like that.
I get you.
Literally.
Is it really like that?
Yeah, it's close to
Come
that.
on.
The intensity of it. It's a big room. Everybody's there cheering. There's different sections. Like everyone's going at it, doing their own thing. Different belt systems there. Different schools.
Wow.
People of different levels. It's that intense from what I remember, and that's just basically the pressure was also very much for me because I was young, and so when it came to the sparring, I'm like, oh man, like they came from this school. Oh, they're taller. Oh, man. And like it was like literally one of those moments that kind of got to me. So when it came to sparring, I think that's where I kind of found it a little bit difficult for myself. The forms, which is like the katas, like the routines and everything, that was more fun for me.
Right.
Because I can also make my own forms as well, which I did. And my instructor really worked with me on that. But yeah, I always wanted to do so good to represent my school. I was the only one representing, and also for my instructor as well.
That's a lot of pressure, though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
So when you lost, what was that like?
I was definitely upset at myself. You know, my parents always went. My dad too. He would sometimes even be in my corner. So he would say, "Oh, it's okay, whatever," and I'd just get so flustered. But I'll probably get over it like later down the week, but it was still like I know like I have to like the next time I go into class, I have to review what I did wrong and we have to work on it and just have to do better than that.
So, what was your ultimate goal in martial arts? Did you want to go to maybe the Olympics, or what was the ultimate goal there?
So Olympics was kind of a possibility for me. There was other students that were about to go as well. They did mention it to me, but it was never a thing where like it was like close to like, okay, we're gonna start training for the Olympics. I think at that point when that conversation came about, I was older and I had my black belt, but I wasn't feeling it. I wasn't feeling like going to the Olympics. I was having more of a feeling like, okay, I think I'm ready to move on, and that's when I quit Taekwondo and wanted to do other things. But why I started Taekwondo as well is because of like all the karate movies and stuff.
Right.
I wanted to do like stunt work
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. I want to be part of martial arts movies, so that's why I also wanted to get into it. So if it wasn't the Olympics, I was thinking more so doing that.
What's your favorite martial arts movie?
Well, it definitely is Karate Kid right off the bat, and then Bloodsport is up there. I also like Game of Death from like Bruce Lee.
Yeah.
So I would say like those are my top three. But yeah, Karate Kid always like takes my heart.
No Last Dragon on that?
No.
Come on, really?
Oh, yeah.
All right. Age-old question between me and my partner who lives in Florida. Bruce Lee against Andre the Giant. Who would win?
Oh man. Sheesh. I have to go with my boy Bruce Lee. I can't.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
If you watch Game of Death, you'll know why.
All right. But wait. Doesn't Chuck Norris beat Bruce Lee in one of those movies?
Was it? Which one was it?
I mean, don't hold me to it. I could be wrong. You know more than I do. I'm just saying. I remember.
Yeah, because his other movies, like, what was the other one? Enter the Dragon and stuff. I watched it a couple times. I wasn't feeling Enter the Dragon though. I don't know if he was in that one, but I'm not sure. We have to look into that.
Did it bother you in DiCaprio movie where Bruce Lee gets beat up by the stunt guy? Did that piss you off?
Yeah.
Yeah, it did.
Yeah.
Huh? Wow, you're a big Bruce Lee guy.
I am.
You know.
Listen, when I was younger, when I was like 12, my dad made my whole room like martial arts theme, and I had little like Bruce Lee statues.
I cannot believe you're not feeling The Last Dragon though. Come on.
No, So I watched it again recently because I watched it when I was younger, but like I watched it again recently. I was
Showing
like,
off.
okay,
Come on.
it's cool. Like those parts are cool, but I was still like, all right, like it's not up there, but like not top three, I would say.
I get it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll ask you this other question before we move on because you got a lot of interesting stuff to talk about. Who's really the bad guy in Karate Kid? Is it Daniel?
Oh,
Is Daniel
man.
really the bad guy in that movie?
They made it seem to be that way when Cobra Kai came out, and
These are very stressful questions. I can
it's all because of a girl.
Well, think about
The girl was like playing around too much.
Well, think about it. He comes to California. He steals the guy's girlfriend. Then he interferes when they're having an argument, and then he gets mad when he gets beat up. Right? I mean, come on, think about all that stuff. Then he sprays the guy when he's smoking weed in the bathroom and gets him all wet. Daniel's not really that good of a guy. I'm just
if
gonna
you
throw
put
that
it
out
that
there.
way, yes. But in Cobra Kai, it made it really seem like like Johnny was just the good guy because he was just like, yo, that's my ex. Like we just broke up, but I still have feelings for her, and then she's gonna go run off to this guy right in front of me. Like that's how I see it too.
So now you're getting into the world of wrestling. Mm-hmm. How does that happen? Like what makes you make that decision?
That I definitely made that decision when I was like 13 years old. I just had this weird feeling in my stomach because like I loved watching it growing up, but I always thought I wonder how it would be if I did it. Like I was doing martial arts and I was like imagining a lot of things like I could do, like if I was in the ring and stuff like that. And so I told my mom. And she wasn't surprised that I even said that, like that
Really?
I wanted to, be a pro wrestler. And she was like, okay, well, she was completely open to it. And like I said, like my parents are like, they want to make sure that I'm aligned to the things that I want to do, if they're good things, obviously. And she's like, all right, we're gonna see if there's like a school around or something. And so like we found one nearby, and we went to visit. And she did this for me just to see if I absolutely
Now, how old are you at this
wanted to.
point?
I was 13.
13.
Yeah.
Kudos to mom. That gives
Yeah.
her a lot of credit. Wow.
Yeah. And she took me to this school, and the school owner, he was there. And obviously, I think like during that time, there wasn't a lot of girls wrestling, one, and then of course there wasn't a lot of younger people going in for training. Nowadays you'll see like 14-year-olds training, like they're starting at that age, and it's not necessarily an issue, but back then it was just like, kind of unheard of. And so I was a girl and I was 13. I was going into a school where like there's these big dudes training in the ring.
Right.
And the owner is like, okay, like this is how it is, blah 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 blah. You sure you want to do this? And he was just asking me like little interview questions. And after that, I mean, I didn't think of anything. I was like, yeah, I would like to try it. Of course, they weren't gonna have me like do a lot of things if I was gonna start training. I didn't start training at that time because of the money part. And when I was 13, my parents like divorced, so money was very tough for my mom, for my dad, all of that. So I didn't start, but ever since then, it was just kicking me in the gut. I was like, oh, I have to try it or else I'm gonna regret
I got to
it.
ask you said you put it on TV and you said your dad was a fan.
Yeah.
What really attracted you to it, though? Was it a particular wrestler?
I think it was definitely seeing just like some of the women, but also like the acting part really grabbed my attention, like the emotion that it gave me. Because I would absolutely believe like, oh my gosh, I hate that guy so much. And it's just like the emotion it gave me is like I never felt that with anything else that I watched. So that's why it was just so addicting to watch. So I think that's what it really was that grabbed my attention, that was like, I should really try this. Like I want to bring that emotion out and like make the same emotion for other people. And it was something that I feel like, okay, if I like do my own style and this look and like really inspire other people that way, I would love to do something like that.
Right. Wow.
Yeah.
So now you don't have enough money to go to school, but it's still your dream.
Yeah.
Right. When does the dream start?
It starts when I think I was 23, 24. So
Well, how old are you now?
I'm 30 now.
Oh, I thought you were still 23. Yeah, I can't get anyone's age anymore, but you're still a youngster. Anyway,
Yeah.
but go ahead.
No, yeah. And so I was like 23, 24, and this happened because I was in school for fashion, and I wasn't really digging it. And the school I was at, the program I was in, they were having a lot of issues, and then they weren't offering financial aid for certain people anymore, including me, because I wasn't graduating at a certain time. It was a private college. And so I was like, all right, I'm not even going to stay here. It's already a mess. I feel like this is now telling me to move on to something else, because I wasn't even feeling fashion anyways at that point. The industry itself is just not normal. Like everyone's very robotic in fashion, no shade, but I couldn't click with the people in that industry. So this was telling me, all right, I need to go out and do something that I've been wanting to do, and that was wrestling. That's the first thing that popped up in my mind. I was like, all right, I'm gonna figure out a way to start doing this. So I looked at schools, and specifically schools in Florida. Only because the PC's down there. So it was like, maybe.
All right, so you're like, okay, now I have
maybe
that
I have to go over
Yeah.
there or something. So I found a school there. It was in Orlando, and I was in DC. So I was like, all right, I'm going to move over there. I'm well old enough to make my own decisions really now. And so I'm going to move over there by myself. I don't know anybody over there. It's fine. I'll figure it out. So I told my dad, I was living with my dad at the time. And he was like, oh, okay. And like, he wasn't surprised when I said that, though, that I want to go for wrestling. And so he helped me, like, move and everything. He drove down there with me. I found roommates, like, they were looking for a roommate, whatever. So I moved in there with them, and I started training. And I was training, like, every day since then.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, what school was this though?
It's Pro Wrestling 2.0, so it's ran by Alex Porto, and Santana Garrett was there as one of the trainers, and she would help run for the women's. So I was very comfortable because of the fact that there was like a women's class and there was a women's trainer. So she took very good care with me there. Another trainer who really really helped me with all the creative stuff and really coming up with my gimmick was Eric Lockhart, and he's a trainer at Reality of Wrestling, which is Booker T's school. And so when I was there, I was so comfortable, and yeah, I'm very thankful for the trainers that I actually got to train with.
So tell me, how does your gimmick evolve? Like, how does that discussion take place?
So when Eric saw me start training, he was kind of like asking me, like, can you do this? Like, let me see how you do that, whatever. And he saw how I was moving, and I was already moving different in the ring because I was moving very like Muay Thai, like martial artist in the ring.
Right.
My stance was very wide, and I was very like crouched down, like moving like this, hands up, stuff like that. So he would like ask me, he's like, all right, can you do this? Let me see how you kick when you do that. Can you kick when you do this? So because he saw that my kicks were like the strongest thing about me. And so once he saw that, like that's where it was starting to evolve.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So I was doing some work, investigating you and stuff like that. Did you work with Bubba Ray at all? And Bully Ray? Okay.
No, I have not, no.
Okay. So the most famous wrestler you worked with was Garrett, is basically at this point?
I would say so, yeah. Santana, for sure. And when I moved back home, when I moved back to DC from Orlando, I did train with Sumi Sakai, who's very big in Japan, legend in Japan. And she was running the school Worldwide Dojo with Cheeseburger, who's like very popular right now. And that school was technically the old Ring of Honor training center. And I guess like they moved somewhere else, but that was the old Ring of Honor training center. And then they made it like their own thing. So when I came back home, I was training with Sumi. So Sumi's pretty popular as well. Like she's up there.
So I noticed with younger wrestlers like yourself, the history of wrestling seems to be lost in them. Are you a historian of wrestling?
I wouldn't call myself a historian. I mean, I can't even think as far back as I know when it comes to wrestling. Because when I started watching, it wasn't even Attitude Era. I think it was like at the tail end of it.
So even after Attitude Era, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
So, but like even so, like growing up, I do watch like throwback videos, but I didn't get too into it where it's like history of certain things.
I get it.
Yeah.
So now you're a real martial artist. You're a badass in real life. But you are, right? What is the most difficult thing transitioning to a sport, or we'll call a sport that is predetermined?
Can you reiterate that? Like, what do
So
you mean by that?
you're a real martial artist.
Yeah.
You compete for real.
Yeah.
You hit, you hurt,
Yeah.
you get hurt.
Yeah.
Now you're in wrestling where everything is scripted to a certain point, where
Yeah.
you're looking out for your partner
Yeah.
and not trying to hurt your partner.
Mm-hmm.
How hard is that transition, and what was the hardest part about that?
So, I mean, it wasn't it wasn't too difficult. Like I wasn't really hurting people right off the bat. I was actually the total opposite. I was trying not to hurt them. I was way too soft. And they were kind of like, you could go in a little bit more, you
Right.
know? So like that's like literally what my issue was. And then I realized, there's safe spots where you can hit. I can still be a little bit snug. So that was like mainly like the difficult part. Everything else was fine. I mean, obviously, like the slams or the bumps are gonna be kind of difficult because you don't do that every day in normal life. So it was difficult for me to like learn how to do that. But yeah, that's what I can think of.
Because your reactions to protect yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like, and that, like,
Yeah.
look, I've never been a wrestler. I'm not anything like that. But it's like I could imagine if someone's doing something to you, first the reaction is to protect yourself,
Yeah.
and not let yourself get
Yeah.
hurt.
Literally.
That must take a lot of time to get down to allow your
Yeah.
body to not do certain things.
Yeah, and knowing me, because I am very like competitive towards myself, I'm like, what are you doing? Like, just like when I'm leaving training, not being able to, not knowing how to bump right, I'm like, nah, man, I need to go back tomorrow and get this right or something.
Now, what's your ultimate goal in wrestling right now?
So, I mean, right now I am signed to a company, and I feel like this past year I really found myself. Like, finally, I am very confident in what I have going on, what my gimmick is, like everything right now. I'm not second guessing myself or anything like that. So I think I hit that point where I'm like, okay, I'm well confident. I'm ready to show out even more. So I think later down the line, like later this year, I want to establish more of the entertainment TV style of Janai Kai,
Mm-hmm.
because I'm very confident in my wrestling, and where I'm at right now, they've had me like talking on the mic. We're doing backstage segments, all of that. Good practice for me. But I still want to keep doing that and really establish that by the end of the year.
So we established earlier you were kind of shy person,
Mhm.
right? And now
Mhm.
you're becoming in the limelight, right? You
Mhm.
wrestle in MLW, you do all this stuff.
Mhm.
Um, how do you handle the fans?
So the fans haven't even been like disruptive or anything towards me. Like if I'm just like walking around, let's say, or if I'm entering the venue, there are fans outside and they've been respectful. Um, and when they approach me, like the one of the first things they say is like a compliment and all of that. So I haven't had a situation where it was kind of like off. Of course, online is online, but perks of that is that they're not in person; they're just online, so I don't really have to deal with
Well,
them.
that's what I'm kind of getting towards. So,
Yeah,
like, how does a young woman like yourself
yeah,
handle this? Look, we've got a pretty popular show here, and we've got enough heat, me and my partner, but it's nowhere near what someone like yours getting. Like, how are you deal? How do you deal with that?
I don't.
You just like
I
nothing.
don't deal with it unless I'm pretty sure what I said or did was absolutely wrong. I'm not gonna say anything. But like I mean, I see little comments here and there. I don't even try to like search myself. Some people do that, which I don't recommend. Don't Google search yourself. Don't Twitter search
But
yourself.
isn't today's wrestling a lot of social media? Like you got to
It
keep pushing
is.
yourself. So you got to push yourself out there. How are you disconnecting from it then?
So what I don't do is just look at people's opinions unless they really matter. Like fans' opinions, okay, I get it. It depends what it is. But if it's literally like an opinion where they're trying to bring down a person or whatever,
Mm.
something like, um, I don't pay attention to that. Sometimes I consider it. If I see it like on my timeline, I'm like, if they say something about me, I'm like, I wonder what they mean by that. Sometimes I do respond. I'm like, what do you mean by that? Like, I
Mm.
would love to know. And they let me know. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then after that, they're chill with me. Like, they're not trying to like go off about me
Right.
or like try to start something with me. And so sometimes, depending on what the comment is, I do ask what they mean by that, just so I know.
Is there anything that was ever written to you that you couldn't take it and it really brought you down, really upset you?
Mm, Not that I know of. Some people just make comments about my look. Because some people don't really aren't comfortable with how intense or like so dark I look.
Mm.
They think that they don't call me ugly, but they're just like, ugh, like that. And I've
Right.
seen stuff like that, and I'm like, okay, I'm not the pretty like I'm not your average women's wrestler, pretty walking around. Of course, I'm a little bit different looking. So I've seen comments like that, but I'm like, yo, I'm not changing myself for you.
Right.
Like, it is what it is. If you don't like the look, you don't like the look. I mean, I got your attention, so at least I did something there.
Well,
So I'm not gonna complain too much about
yeah, I get it.
it.
So I'm gonna ask you. I want to get off the wrestling for a second. I kind
Mhm.
of want to understand what a younger person's feeling right now with what's going on in this country.
Mm-hmm.
What do you as a 30-year-old,
Mm-hmm.
put the wrestling aside, put the fans aside? How do you feel the state of the country is right now as an individual?
It's very difficult. Like for me personally, besides wrestling, I have 2 other jobs, and where I live is not like it's very expensive. Where I live in DC area, um, and I always see a lot of things too around DC area. Like there's a lot of people who are of my age who live in that area who are working their 9 to 5, stuff like that, and that's like mainly like it's the main thing really that I think about like in my personal life is like I have to keep grinding like every day, working every day, making sure I'm still aligning myself with what I want to do and stay happy. So that's just been a big thing for me. Like I have to like make sure I'm content with what's going on regardless of like what's happening in the world or in our country in general. So yeah, that's crazy how you asked that because that's literally what I've been like thinking about. I've been trying to do for myself.
So now you're on TV, people know you. Now you're doing this 9 to 5 gig. How tough is that? Because, now people see you on TV. And again, we know, especially in wrestling, in everything, but we'll just keep it to wrestling. People sometimes can't separate the fake with fake is a bad word. I'm using it, but you know what I mean. The character against the real person. Like, how do you deal with that? Oh, so that seems to be an issue, huh?
No, not for me. Because a lot of people ask me because when they see my social media and they see me at work, they're like, "Is that you? Like, you're the same person?" I'm like, "Yeah, I know how to turn it off and turn it on." And they're like, "Wow, you're like so sweet in person, and then you look so mean online." I'm like, "Yep." So what I do for work, like I teach boxing classes, boxing and strength classes. I also do like personal training, like martial arts personal training.
Okay.
But it's like an all day thing. It's not even like sometimes it is 9 to 5. Sometimes it's literally like there's little gaps in between, but I'm literally doing it all day. And like when I'm teaching group fitness, I love it because where I'm at, it feels like I am doing some sort of entertainment. Like I'm in front of everybody. I'm getting everybody pumped up. I'm on stage. I'm with the mic. I'm getting like it's still kind of like my thing and I'm very comfortable with it when I do it. And it's what I love to do. It's still something that I love to do. But when like the members of like the gym and stuff like that, when they find out that I do wrestling, they're like, "Oh my gosh, like that is so cool." There's like actually a lot of people who like talk about how they were wrestling fans and stuff like that before, but they're like, "That's you?" Like, wow. Like they just like they're so amazed because I look different and my hair's still the same, obviously. I keep the mohawk and everything. Maybe it's my ponytail's a little bit more back during the week. I don't put it right in front of my face. I don't have like dark makeup or anything like that, but yeah.
So you gotta understand, I'm quite a bit older than you, but it's like when we're wrestling fans, right? Or people would say, "Oh, you like what's your show about?" Like in the business world, and I'll be like, "Wrestling." You know what I mean? Like, but like for you, this younger generation, wrestling's mainstream now.
Yeah.
It's not something to be like ashamed of, right?
No, it isn't. And even when I told my job, like when I was first coming on.
Wait a minute. It's like, hey, I'm gonna take this. Just so you know. All right, go ahead. I'm sorry.
During the interview process, like that. During the interview process, that's the first thing I have to say, or else like it's just like I feel like if I tell them later, they're not gonna understand what I'm doing on the weekends.
Right. Gotcha.
Like I have to tell them this is my availability. This is what I'm doing on the weekends, just so you know. Some of them they say, "Oh, okay." Like I think they don't get it. Like they don't know what I actually do.
Right.
Like I say, "Oh, I'm a pro wrestler," blah blah blah, and they're like, "Oh, okay, so like you can't do Saturdays." I'm like, "No." They're like, "I can't do most Saturdays at least."
Right.
And like they're like they act understanding. I've had it some jobs. They're like, "Oh, okay, yeah, that's fine, whatever." And then later down the line, they have an issue with it. I'm like, I told you what I do. You know what I do. And then it becomes a big issue. But like where I'm at now, immediately they knew like what it is I do, what the deal is, and they've been so flexible with me. They're like, if you need a Friday off, let us know. We'll have someone cover you.
Gotcha.
Like it's that chill.
So if there's a fan out there that doesn't really know you, right, what match would you recommend they watch you that really get the essence of you?
I would say me versus Queen Aminata, but she's in AEW right now, and that specific match really was full of emotions, and you can feel it. We had a standing ovation after that
Mm.
one, and this was part of the company Women's Wrestling Army, which was ran by Maria Kanellis, and that the whole show in general is a whole women's wrestling show. So different women who are trying to make a name for themselves are on this show, and it was me versus Queen Aminata, and that's the one that I always send out. Like, watch this one, because me and her, we go hard. Like, she has, like, her life is amazing as well, but we are just letting everything out that we've been feeling. We're at this point in our career where it's like we really want to scream our name out there and get somewhere, like get signed somewhere. That's where that match was at.
Mm. Tough question. How long are you giving yourself to make it to where you have to be? I'm assuming the ultimate to you would be, and again, I could only be assuming this, and you could tell me I'm wrong, is AEW to WWE, right?
So that's what I was thinking about too. It's wherever I absolutely fit in and where they're taking care of me. I'm not gonna say a company. But that's literally what it is for me. So it's if they're taking care of me, if I feel like I
When you mean
damn well
taking care,
fit
are
in.
we talking financially, that you didn't have to work another
Financially,
job, emotionally?
financially, emotionally, just everything that they're understanding. Like, I feel like, I mean, they all, like, there's a lot of places that say, oh, we're a family, but sometimes we're not. Like, there's definitely clicky type stuff going on, which is, it's literally how the industry is. So it's, if I definitely, like, your gut's always going to tell you, like, okay, this is definitely the place for me. Like, where I'm at right now, MLW, I feel great at MLW. I feel very comfortable because they want to work with me. They want to work with my gimmick. They have so many ideas for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I've been craving for something like this for a while. If I can keep, like, working with people like that, it would be great. So it's something like that.
So were you there when Kurt was still running it?
Court is still running it.
Oh, he is still running
Yeah.
it. Okay, I thought they. Okay, so I thought they had released him or he moved on. Okay,
He's still there.
okay. And how is he to work for?
He's great. He always wants any feedback from me too, or any ideas that I have. He's always open to that. He always wants to hear from me. Even when he's like sending me emails about like the next show coming up, what match I have, the first thing on that email is, if you have any feedback or any ideas, let me know. And for a lot of my matches, I've had ideas, and he's like, yeah, like, let's definitely do it. Or he'll, if he doesn't really like necessarily agree with the whole thing, he'll come up with like 2 or 3 extra ideas that kind of bounce off of what I have, and then we'll come together with like a final decision. We're like, okay, we'll do it this way.
So you don't really want to push your social media too much, right? But can you share with fans out there your social media, where they could find you, where they could follow you?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm on Instagram and I'm on Twitter, Janai_Kai.
You're not on Facebook?
There's a like page, but as if anyone wants to be on Facebook.
Facebook's for
yeah.
old people, right?
So if you are on my Facebook like page, you might as well be on my Instagram, because I connect the two.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Oh my god. Oh my god. All right. So, is your ultimate goal though to work for a company where you're just full-time wrestler?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And I always have like my other goals in my personal life, which I ultimately want to have my own gym, like kickboxing gym. But wrestling is definitely gonna help me like get up there to where I want to be with my dream. And then as long as I have my other goal on the side, I open up my own gym. Oh, Janai Kai has a gym?
Right.
All right, word. And then I'll be good. Like, if something happens, like life happens. Like, I had a very close career-ending injury where that kind of woke me up as well. And so I was like, oh, I need to get on my personal life. Like,
Right.
I need to make sure I have a backup plan or something. So as long as I have that, like, straightened out, like, yeah, like, wrestling's fine to be, like, a full-time thing for me.
Who's Janai Kai's ultimate opponent opponent, that your dream opponent that you could wrestle?
A lot of times I'm like, oh, I don't know, like, but I thought about it, and she is on WWE, but it's Asuka. Asuka, she was kind of in the independents, and a lot of people like kind of saw me as her because when she was on the independents, she wrestled barefoot, which I did as well.
Right.
And her style is like a lot of kicking, like very hard and everything. And I watch her matches too for inspiration or motivation. So she's definitely like a dream
Would you
match.
consider her the greatest women's wrestler ever?
She's definitely up there. When it comes to like wrestling wise, definitely one of the greatest. Obviously on the mic, like you can't really say much because she is Japanese and like they don't really have her to talk too much. But
Right.
entertainment wise, she's great.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. One of the greats.
Yeah.
Where do you rank Charlotte Flair as a women's wrestler?
You know, from 1 to 10.
Yeah.
Okay. For me personally, I would say an 8.
Wow. Not a big Charlotte fan. Well, eight's
Yeah.
good, but you know.
I have a lot of reasons, and you know, some people, if they're not a fan of her wrestling, they're not a fan of her wrestling. But there's other little things that I see of her that make it an 8.
Can
for
you
me.
share like what makes her an 8?
Her charisma, her presence, really, she grabs people's attention. The way that she is on the mic, the way that she speaks, the way that she really enunciates her words when she
Right.
speaks, like, just the way that she even like just stands and like she like when she's doing backstage segments, she just looks so confident. It's like the confidence in her, just everything. That's what makes it an 8 for me.
When you're looking back and you're watching your career and this growth, do you look back at the older women who have paved the way for someone like yourself to have the availability to not be a certain way, right? To have your own look, to be your own way. How do you feel about that? Do you feel that the ladies who paved the way for you guys should get a little more respect?
Absolutely.
The
Because
Wendy Richters, Leilani Kais,
Yeah.
Fabulous Moolahs, etc.
absolutely.
Judy Martins.
Yeah, because we definitely wouldn't be anywhere right now if it wasn't for them, obviously. And there are definitely people that, you know, they seem like, I know certain women, they might feel forgotten, but when you look back at it and you actually like see the women back then, you're like, wow, yeah, they definitely like made something happen. They made history when they did this, did that, or made some sort of change. Like even for me, like going back to like when I was watching it, I mean, I was watching like Lita, I was watching Trish, Jacqueline was there too, Jazz, some of the women to name that were on the screen when I was watching. And so even then, it was still kind of like, I feel like they were bringing in more women that were different looking too. But like something was happening. Like
Yeah.
you can feel it.
Yeah, nice. Well, I'm going to let you get out of here. I want to thank you for this wonderful interview.
Thank
You have
you.
made me a fan.
Aw.
And I see a bright future for you. And I'm
Thank
usually
you.
right. Usually. So, do you have any messages to your fans and your haters out there?
Well, I mean, for everybody, yeah, like just love yourself, and do what makes you happy, and just be yourself overall. Don't try and change yourself for anybody else. Regardless of what anyone says, yes, you can like, you know, be like, oh, like why do you say that? Like when I say like, oh, if someone has an opinion, just ask them why did they say that, and then if you don't agree with it, then whatever. You don't have to agree with it. Don't think too much about it. Really just do you, as long as it makes you happy. Be yourself. There's going to be a lot of people who will hate on you. And the best thing to do is just don't let it get to you.
Well said. And thank you, Janai Kai, for joining Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte The Pharaoh. We'll see you next Thursday, where Jimmy will be tuning in from Florida. Thank you again. Have a safe flight home, okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.